This podcast was brought to you by our sponsors, Dragon Shield. If you'd like to support the channel or Dragon Shield, you can go to our affiliate link down below to pick up some sweet sleeves.
I think they have new sleeves that just came out. They're like green and blue.
Cool. You can buy those too.
Welcome to a Play to Win podcast where we talk about winning in cEDH. I'm Cam.
I'm Dylan.
And this week we have a spicy top 10 that we're going to talk about.
Give it to me.
This is the top 10 combos in cEDH. So we're going to do this a little bit differently from every other top 10 that you've probably ever seen before.
Other top 10s, boring.
Boring. This one, cool, right? So instead of us knowing what the top 10 is coming into the video.
Because we don't,
right? We're going to try to figure that out here together instead.
Yes.
So this way,
we get the thought process, what we're thinking, why we rank them the way that we're ranking them.
We're not just regurgitating information like it's out of a textbook.
Right. We're going to have a conversation.
Yeah, we're going to figure them out. We got to first define what a combo is, because if we're going to nail this down, we got to figure out exactly what we're looking for here.
cEDH combo, what is it?
All right, so Webster's Dictionary defines a combo.
A cEDH combo.
Yes. A combo, short for combination, is an interaction between two or more cards that results in a player winning the game, creating infinite mana that will be used to win the game.
With Thrasios, something like that.
Or setting a player up to win the game because of this course of interaction.
Right. It may not actually say you win the game, but you will create a million creatures or something like that can win the game.
No opponents will have permanence in play continuously.
And you have your whole deck in your hand.
Exactly.
That is basically a win, and we're going to count that as part of what a combo can kind of do.
Exactly. So what are we excluding? So there's a couple categories that we're not looking into right here.
These are not combos.
Exactly. One card win conditions.
Things like Ad Nauseam that like set up the combo, that's not really what we're going to talk about today. Ad Nauseam does win you the game, but it wins you the game because it finds you something else to win you the game. We're going to talk about the thing that it finds you.
Yes, exactly. This also includes Intuition. This includes Polymorph. This includes Birthing Pod. This includes Mnemonic Betrayal and Elish Norn Grand Cinnabite as well, too. These are all cards. Well, I was trying to think about it. Like
Elish Norn is like a stacks finisher. It's a win condition sometimes.
We're not talking about stacks finishers.
Right.
No, that's not a combo. That's just a one-card win condition.
We're talking about loops.
Yes.
Or I guess not even loops, but I mean, one of the first ones we're going to talk about isn't necessarily a loop. But the wins, two cards that go together that actual win the game.
Exactly, yeah. We're also, again, not talking about the outlets. We're talking about the combos. So we're excluding like, oh, my commander is Thrasios or Jessica. It's the outlet for the infinite mana. No. Well, we want to talk about the infinite mana combos. And this also means that we're excluding Finale of Devastation because, again, that's an outlet. So
even though normally Finale of Devastation is the thing that's causing you to win the game, but only after you've been able to make a billion mana, we're talking about how to make the billion mana.
Exactly. Okay. Well, since I think, we're trying to set up what the top 10 is, I think we should start with a really clear start here and talk about Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation.
Yeah, we should talk about the baseline. What's the best? Start right at the top, and then whoever wants to click off the video, you can go now because we
now
know
that you know what the best one is.
If you didn't know before,
the top 10. So,
but Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation. Thassa's Oracle is a creature. It has a trigger. When the trigger goes off and you have no library, you win the game because your devotion will be less than your library. And cards like Demonic Consultation and Tainted Pact exile your library at instant speed for a very efficient mana cost. This is the best combo in the game.
It's very difficult to interact with, although it is very possible for every color to do so. It is still very difficult, and the timing has to be right. You have to have the right cards in your hand. So if you're looking for like a very quick and reliable and very inexpensive combo, this is really the best one to go for.
It's cream of the crop. It's the most it's difficult to interact with, like you said. It's very mana efficient, being a total of 3 mana for Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation, and it's Did I say difficult to interact with? I think that was the first thing that I said.
I said that,
You
too.
said that. Great.
We all said it, yeah. Everybody knows it.
Removal doesn't do it. If you kill the Thoracle, then it dies, and then the trigger still goes on the stack. You have to counter the Thassa's Oracle or stop the ability. I know now you're going to say Stifle. You're going to say this in your head, Stifle. I still don't think Stifle's good.
Submerge.
Yeah. There are other things that can stop this combo besides stopping the trigger. Something like, a Spell Pierce on the Demonic Consultation. That is a great way to stop this combo.
Other colors have things like Endurance or Angel's Grace or Red Elemental Blast that can also help interacting with this combo as well. But I think coming into this, we all kind of had the assumption that this
We
was
know.
going to be number one.
Yeah, we
so
know.
why are we? I don't want to build up to this thing that we all knew. Right.
And we don't have to waste a ton more time on this. We all know that Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation or Tainted Pact is the best way to win the game. There are other ways to get rid of your library. Ones that I like. Oh, shoot. I should know this. What's the black creature that I really like?
Divining Witch.
Divining Witch.
Yes,
that's
Hermit
a great
Druid.
one. Divining Witch and Hermit Druid are ways that can set up the Thassa's Oracle. I know at the beginning we said we weren't going to talk about those cards. Here I am talking about those cards, but that's not the combo. The combo is Thassa's Oracle.
Oh, should Hermit Druid be on this list? Is Hermit Druid?
No, Hermit Druid should
It's a
count
one-card
as
win
it's a
condition.
one-card win con. It's part. We're not talking about
We're
Hermit
not
Druid.
talking about Hermit
We're
Druid.
gonna spend more time.
Shut the fuck up about Hermit Druid.
We're going to spend more time talking about how we're not going to talk about ad nauseum than actually talking about it. Okay.
All right, so that's a clear, obvious number one. Now, Labman and Jace also do the same thing with these graveyard exilers or library exilers too. Now they're definitely lower than Thassa's Oracle, and I think they're lower enough where I would rather be doing things in other colors potentially than do this.
Yes, like if Thassa's Oracle got banned, I don't think Demonic Consultation and Jace is the best thing to be doing in cEDH. It's one of them. It's definitely probably one of the top three. I think Jace would see a ton of play if Thassa's Oracle ever got banned.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would be relying on it as hard.
No, I don't think so either.
I would shift to something else.
Yeah, okay. Then we are also going to talk about Underworld Breach, Brain Freeze, and LED as a 3-card combo that also wins the game pretty handily.
Yep, if you have Underworld Breach in play and you have a Lion's Eye Diamond, you can sacrifice Lion's Eye Diamond for mana, discarding your hand and probably the Brain Freeze. That's part of this 3-card combo. And from your graveyard, you cast the Brain Freeze with the mana that you made from Lion's Eye Diamond, milling yourself. The storm count is already a couple, 2 or 3. You'll mill 6 or 9 cards. You can do it again. Next time it's going to be 12 cards, etc., etc. Mill your whole library out. From there, we're putting that here as one of these win cons because you can mill your opponents out with this combo too. Your opponents will have no library, and then you can pass the turn. Normally, players who are playing this combo are also playing Thassa's Oracle, so just for good measure, once they get to this point of milling their whole library out, they'll just cast the Thassa's Oracle, and that'll be it. But the win con is truly, you can mill your opponents out, and I think that is a perfectly feasible win con. Now, you may say, what about the Gitrog player that has a Titan? Who cares? That never happens. There's not that many Gitrog players.
Technically, what you can
you're just
do,
not gonna run into that. And if it does happen, there's like other stuff. Like you can do other stuff. You have Underworld Breach in your whole library in your graveyard. You can bounce all of their things. You can make it impossible for them to win. You can do other things. It's really not the end of the world if one player has a Titan, and that just doesn't happen often. There's not a lot of Titans in the format.
It's not going to happen in the tournament setting because there's no Gitrog in the tournament setting. So
Right, yeah, no one's bold enough to take Gitrog to a tournament.
right, I would totally roll those dice. But yeah, no, I kind of have that right now in between Thassa's Oracle and Breach. I would have that as our number 2 slot.
These are, as we're making the list going from top to bottom, this is the easiest way to make the list. Like, what's the best? It's those 2 things. And in a lot of ways, there's crossover, which is why they're so good. You can use the Thoracle with the Breach.
Exactly. And honestly, because of this, I really think the meat and the potatoes is going to be coming after 1 and 2. I think that's really...
What are we talking about?
I'm talking about, like, where the rankings are going to come from here, right? Like, I don't think, like, that's interesting to talk about, like, oh, what about Thassa's Oracle versus, like, literally anything? Well, yeah. I mean, we knew we were going to put that there,
we're not
right?
going to have a fake argument about is Thassa's Oracle better than the other ones.
No,
Thassa's
exactly. But
yeah.
I think it's going to get more interesting as we get to some of these, like, a little bit less powerful combos that is going to be more interesting.
Just because the combo isn't quite as efficient doesn't mean it's not better or worse to run, per se. There are other combos that may not be as mana efficient as Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation, but they have a lot of good synergies with your deck, or they'll have it so that you don't run any dead cards in your deck, or they'll have some other purpose that is somehow a positive that in your head you can say, okay, yeah, this is worth it, me not playing Demonic Consultation Thoracle, because that's not all you can do in the format. We know that there are plenty of other decks that can win in a number of other ways. Having commanders with 1-card win cons in your deck is a great way to win. That's a little bit easier than Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation sometimes. There's other things to do that can be just as good, if not as good.
I'm very excited to get into these. So the next one I have is Protean Hulk and a Sack Outlet.
Okay.
So this is Protean Hulk, Viscera Seer, basically is the Sack Outlet that we'll use as our example.
It's Viscera Seer, right?
I don't know, man. It totally could be. It's anyone's.
I don't know. Actually,
It's
I thought it was
anyone's guess.
Visceraseer. I always said Visceraseer, but I'm pretty sure Tyler corrected me once. At
I
least.
say it differently every
time.
time. Every
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong.
It
Whatever.
depends
Okay,
on how
sorry.
I feel, right?
Yeah. All right.
So then the combo you get after that is Malira, Sylvok, Outcast, the Lesser Masticore, and then the Disciple of the Vault.
Yeah. This is the most common Golgari one. You can loop these cards together to kill your opponents with just the Protean Hulk and a Sacrifice Atlas. So it's an A+B, Protean Hulk, Sacrifice, and you can set this up. Protean Hulk is broken. We know that. Protean Hulk can set up a number of different piles, not only in this Golgari combination. There are other ones. You can use the Breakfast combo that runs Nomad's Encore and some Cephalid something.
Cephalid Illusionist.
That's the card. That's
Boom.
it. Boom.
And then Thassa's Oracle.
Thassa's Oracle, you mill your whole library, and that was the combo line that Flash Hulk used when Flash was played.
That was Breakfast,
That
right?
was the Breakfast Hulk. There are a ton of different ways that Hulk can win the game, but it's a good way to win the game. Honestly,
It really
I still think
is.
even with Flash gone, I still like Protean Hulk.
You get to win around Rule of Law, which I think is a really strong thing. The other combos that we talked about don't win around a lot of stacks pieces like that. So
That's very true.
I think this does mean that this would rank higher because of that. But
Yeah.
does it rank higher than Underworld Breach, Brain Freeze, and LED?
Yeah, probably not. I mean,
don't know if it does.
it depends. There are lines. I like a lot of the lines with Minx and Boo. You can set up some lines with just your commander that make your win pretty unstoppable. If you can get that Hulk into play and you're playing things like Cavern of Souls, then you can win the game. It doesn't matter if your opponents have any interaction after that point. Thoracle can be interacted with. You can Spell Pierce it.
Yeah.
You can Swan Song stuff. You can do things to interact with Thassa's Oracle. But some of these Hulk lines, they come with Grand Abolisher. Once the Hulk is gone, you can't interact anymore. You're done. There's no more interacting. They can be and especially for players who are not familiar with all the different Hulk lines that there could be, I think that's a great way to take down wins in a cEDH tournament, just because you have to expect all of your opponents to know exactly how to play around you, and that can be difficult.
I would definitely think that I would rather be playing this than like Labman in those like stacks scenarios.
Yeah,
too,
so
I
like
would
if
say.
Thassa's Oracle get banned, maybe we move back to Hulk.
Maybe Hulk is a good way to go too instead of this. So where do you have this versus like Labman consultation or Jace consultation? What do you think?
It's tough to say right now. So it's hard to compare it against those because I don't know what the format would look like if Thassa's Oracle got banned. Because Thassa's Oracle gets banned, changes, like has a ricochet of changing other things. So if Thassa's Oracle gets banned, that means maybe Grixis goes down a little bit. So green cards get better. I think Hulk right now, we haven't gotten to Kiki Jiki yet, but I think Hulk is worse than Kiki right now.
Okay.
So I would probably, I don't want to put a slot. Do I have to solidify the slot for it right now?
No, because it's going to move, I'm sure. If we get to something else that we feel is better, once we get to Kiki Jiki, it's going to get shut down.
Out of the three we have right now, it's third. It's definitely worse than Brain Freeze, LED, Underworld Breach, and it's worse than Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation, Tainted Pact.
Yes.
Was that your question?
Yeah, where is it with Labman? That was my question.
I think Labman is worse than Brain Freeze Underworld. Like the Labman specifically is worse than Brain Freeze Underworld, and probably worse than Hulk too. I think Hulk's
probably worse than Hulk. Great. Okay, so that means that right now Hulk is at our number 3, and then Labman is at our number 4 right now.
Oh, sure. I see how we're doing it.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
sure.
So Labman is at our number 4.
Well, but Labman is different than Thassa's Oracle because Labman you need an extra card. You need to draw a card. You have a cantrip in there. Or
That's
something.
also true, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why it's also at
going
number
down
4 because
because you need another
Thassa's
thing. I
Oracle's
understand.
better, yeah.
All right. So soon by the end of this list, it's probably not going to be on the list.
There's a good chance it might not be on the list.
I understand.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Although I am playing it in my Kess build right now, I am playing Laboratory Maniac.
So I think that it's a good backup combo to the Thassa's Oracle, right?
Yeah.
So like if you don't have a lot of space for like another big thing, it's really easy just to take out one card and slot in Labman to also combo with 2 other cards that you're primarily running in the deck.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, I have been enjoying it more, especially because I've been running into a lot more stacks, and I like Labman because you can just play the Labman out, and there's a rule of law effect. So you can't do anything. You just pass. Maybe you have a Ristic Study in play. Someone casts a spell, and you get a Ristic Study trigger on the stack. You know they can't pay for it. If you Tainted Pact, then you haven't cast another spell, so you can get around the rule of law. You can just win in response to something else that they're doing with the Labman out. That's pretty good. So I like that in a stacks world if you're playing against those effects.
Agreed. I like that in the Thassa's Oracle deck as a way to win around stacks pieces.
Exactly. Another reason why I play Divining Witch for the same thing. Divining Witch can kind of win on its own. Just one card. You can do it slowly. It can set up that win under Rule of Law.
And even if this doesn't end up still in the top 10 at the end of this, that doesn't mean that it's bad that we're playing it, right? This is just an arbitrary number that we're assigning right now. And we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about the Bomberman combo, which is LED, Lion's Eye Diamond, another card we already talked about, and Aureox Salvagers.
Yes, this one makes infinite mana.
Yes.
You can, with the Aureox Salvagers in play, you cast the Lion's Eye Diamond, you sacrifice the Lion's Eye Diamond for 3 mana, use the Aureox ability that is 2 mana to bring it back into play, sack it again, you can make infinite white mana, then once you have infinite white mana, you start casting with some of that white mana to make some red mana, some blue mana, etc., etc. You make a whole bunch of mana, and you can dump that into your commander, whether that be whatever. Thrasios,
Jessica was my favorite use for it.
Yes. Pros of this deck, it is pretty... it's only 4 mana. It's only 4 mana, and it's 2 cards. That's Thassa's Oracle Tainted Pact. That's pretty cheap on mana. Cons, pretty big con. You gotta discard your hand.
I think that makes it that makes it the worst combo that we've talked about so far.
I would say so.
I think it's really good when you have an Underworld Breach in play. Like if you're able to capitalize off of your graveyard like that, then this combo is incredibly appealing and was the best way for me to make infinite mana in Jessica Ishai.
Right.
However, on its own in like a Thrasios Timna Razaketh deck, which is typically the other place that you'll see it, I find that it performs a little bit worse because you do have to be much more risky to go all in on a situation with Razaketh. You have to time everything right with your triggers so that you're going to search for something at the right time with abilities and LED triggers on the stack. So I think number 5 spot right now is where it's going to be, and I will not be surprised to see it push lower and probably out of the top 10.
I agree. I especially like it with cards like Silence and Grand Abolisher that are white cards that work well in decks like this. I just want to make sure that we say that because that's why these combos are good. If you can get a Grand Abolisher out and then do this, it's great. It's super great. But that's true about Grand Abolisher and any 2-card combo.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of other combos that we'll talk about that you could use in white decks too that will still also have access to that. Like the next one that we're going to talk about is Isochron Scepter and Dramatic Reversal.
This is one that used to see a ton of play. This was like one of the things to do in cEDH for a long time. One of the best things. Like it was where to win.
Now you also need enough mana rocks to be able to produce more than 2 mana so that you can keep activating Isochron Scepter to untap all of your mana rocks, make your infinite mana, put that into whatever outlet you're looking for.
Right. We didn't say what this one does, but when you cast the Isochron Scepter, you imprint the Dramatic Reversal under it. You activate the Isochron Scepter. The Dramatic Reversal gets a copy of it cast, and then that untaps the Isochron Scepter, and along with all of your other non-land permanents.
So realistically, it's only a 4 mana 2-card combo.
Right. If you have rocks that produce more than 2 mana already in play.
Which every deck plays.
Right. It's a great win con with Thrasios. When Thrasios was the boogeyman, this was a great way to win. I really like this because this was a way to win with colorless mana. So if you Ad Nauseam and you go Mox Diamond into Soul Ring, into Mana Vault, into Grim Vault, Grim Monolith, and you have all this colorless mana, well, you can use this combo to draw the rest of your deck with Thrasios. I really like that a lot. Sees less play now that Underworld Breach and Thassa's Oracle have kind of taken over, and this combo would see plays in the same type of deck. It sees play in Ad Nauseam decks. It sees play in decks that are trying to draw big cards. So you can find these 2 cards quickly, but it's just less good than Tainted Pact, Thassa's Oracle.
That's the thing. And part of the reason why you've also cut it is because it's so much easier to interact with these other combos too.
Yeah.
Any kind of artifact removal can stop it. I mean, Chain of Vapor, Collector Oof. There's a lot
of stacks that stop this too.
You kind of fall apart to every single stacks piece. So
not only do you need to activate artifacts, which a lot of stacks pieces are stopping the activation of artifacts, but eventually you need to activate a Thrasios or something like that normally, which is an activation of a creature. A lot of Curse Totem effects in play also. You need to cast a bunch of spells. It's bad against Rule of Law. It just folds to like every stacks piece basically.
Yeah, everything has to go right. But otherwise, in terms of where we're ranking this,
better than Labman.
It's definitely. You think it's better than Labman?
I think it's better than Labman.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have Labman and Jace over this.
Yeah, see, it's hard because Labman currently has overlap with Thoracle, which is why I'm playing it. But if Thoracle wasn't here, I don't think I would play Jace. I think I would probably be closer to Isochron Scepter.
You'd be trying to do something else.
I think so.
Yeah, okay, I could see that. Okay, so we're going to put Labman at number 5, and that means that IsoRev is our number 4.
Yeah, where do we putting Jace? Because the 4-mana Jace that has 3
I have
blue pips.
Labman and Jace right next to each other because currently
they're the same thing.
Currently, they're backups
Okay.
to Thassa's Oracle, and I don't really know which one is better because the Jace one isn't.
hard.
Jace one isn't good in Rule of Law metas, and the Labman can be. So.
But the Jace comes with the cantrip. But before Thassa's Oracle came out, I was playing that Jace and Demonic Consultation and Tainted Pact in a deck. I wasn't playing Labman at the time. I was playing like a He-Man strategy at the time, which was like a mid-range ad nauseum type of deck. And that I don't know if that deck would play Jace anymore. I don't know.
Okay, IsoRev is about both Labman and Jace.
Yes, so let's just go with that and move the fuck on.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, so the next one that we're going to talk about then is Dualcaster Mage and Twin Flame or Heat Shimmer.
I like this one.
I love this one. This is a great mono red combo.
Yeah, you need a creature in play. You cast the Twin Flame targeting the creature. You hold priority before you do anything else, and you cast Dualcaster Mage right on top of that Twin Flame. And then as long as priority passes and no one says anything, the Dualcaster will enter. It'll make a copy of the Twin Flame. The Twin Flame will make a copy of Dualcaster, which makes a copy of... You make a bunch of hasty 2/2s, and you can attack your opponents to death. This is a great win con.
It is a great win con. You have to remember to do it in your first main.
First, that's important. Definitely don't try to use your Carpet of Flowers on your second main to do this. It's not going to work. That's kind of honestly one of the reasons I don't love it in Tymna decks, because Tymna wants to draw cards, and then you want to try to go off, and that doesn't work with Dualcaster Mage. I like it a lot more in like Tevish decks, which are drawing on the main phase.
For me, this is normally like a great backup win condition is how I like to think of it.
Yeah.
But it is also a main win condition too in some of the Mardu ad nauseum decks and the other decks that you said too.
It sees play in the Tymna decks, in the Mardu decks. Like I said, I don't love it in those Mardu decks. I think you should probably do something else, unless you're not playing Tymna. If you're playing Mardu, not Tymna, then yes, I think this one's a great one. It's 5 total mana plus that creature that was already in play, but sometimes that's easy, you know. And you need that. It folds to removal still, so it's like Isochron Scepter, and then it folds to removal. It's just creature removal instead of artifact removal. I'm not sure which is worse, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I truly do think it's about the same. A lot of players play a ton of permanent removal, Chain of Vapor, things like that, and then they'll play normally like 1 Swords to Plowshare, 1 Nature's Claim, right? A lot of times recently, like I think it's been more, but
now a lot of the decks play like Beseiju, so they might even cut on some of those other effects too. But
another reason why Isochron Scepter's not as good.
Yeah, but I do think that it's easier to hit creatures and spells than it is to hit artifacts.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
I would definitely say that, because even though like Chain of Vapor still deals with it, and there's other like still non-land permanents that are mentioned on a lot of different cards, I still think that there's more like black decks are much more prone to be able to deal with creatures, and if you're playing up against like
certain colors just can't deal with
exactly
artifacts.
Right, but certain colors play like cut down because it's some of the only removal that they have. So I would certainly think that IsoRev is better than Dualcaster Mage, which means that we're looking at, is Dualcaster Mage better than Labman Jace? Right now in the format, right now, I don't want to talk about ban cards. Right now in the format, I think that it sees play more than Jason Labman.
Right.
And
I think it's better than Jace Labman. I think it's better than Jace Labman because like you said, it sees more play than them right now, I think. Exactly. I don't play Jace ever right now, and I play Labman only for specific reasons, because there's a lot of layover. That's not what I'm thinking of. There's a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of crossover. And for the same reason, sometimes I think Twin Flame Dualcaster is better if you are more leaning into Dockside strategies, because Twin Flame is also really good with Dockside because it's also just a Dockside doubler. So if that's kind of more your strategy, then Twin Flame Dualcaster Mage is a lot better.
That's true, and it fits. I think it also fits perfectly in with a lot of the mono red strategies too, especially like Godo too. So
weirdly, Godo doesn't play this fucking combo.
Does it
though.
not really?
No,
Wow.
I think because it plays Twin Flame and it plays Heat Shimmer, but it doesn't play Dualcaster. I mean, some people sure do, but the main list and a lot of Godo players that I've seen do not play Dualcaster Mage because your strategy involves like attacking, like similar like Tymna. So it doesn't end up making the cut. I honestly, if I put Godo together, I don't know. I might put Dualcaster in it, but I remember feeling the same way that I felt Dualcaster was wrong in Godo. Sometimes it's hard to assemble 2 cards in a deck that can't draw any cards.
that's fair.
You know what I mean? How are you gonna find them?
Yeah. Well, our next combo is a combo that I love. It is Witherbloom Apprentice and Chain of Smog.
Yeah, this one's good too. I like this one. This one is the same to me as Bomberman. It's similar pros and cons list, I think. But
It's 4 mana for
4
a
mana.
2-card combo.
Yep, you got Witherbloom Apprentice in play. This is whenever you cast or copy a spell, drain the table, right? Drain the
Yep,
table,
exactly.
-1, lose 1. And Chain of Smog, which says target player discards 2 cards. They may copy this spell and target somebody else if they want to, but you can just target yourself. So if you target yourself, discard a card, copy it, discard your cards, 2 cards rather, copy it, discard, copy it. Each time you do that, Witherbloom will ping the table. Even if you have no cards in hand, you can keep on doing it and ping the whole table dead. The issue, pros and cons, but the cons, you have to discard your hand, same as LED and what is it?
Auriok Salvagers.
Auriok Salvagers.
That's
You have
what
to
it
discard
is.
your hand. Same thing for this one, you have to discard your hand.
Yeah, exactly. So do you think it's better than Bomberman? Or do you think it's worse?
It is. That only depends on I think green black is better than white. So I will say it's better. But that's the only reason why.
I also think it's better because the decks that run it want it more, and it's very efficient after what they're doing. If you're going fast ad nauseum in Jund colors, I think this is a great way to complete the game for a very easy to assemble mana cost and board situation too. I think that the 4 mana for the Auriok Salvagers all at once does make it like technically a little bit more difficult when technically you can run the Witherbloom Apprentice out earlier than a
Green is
Salvagers.
green is really good at tutoring for creatures also. So being green black, being in the best tutor colors is also very helpful. Realistically, I think the combos are even power level. They cost the same mana, they have the same effect, they have the same cons. The only pros that are related to them are just based on their color. And that's just kind of a lot of the time comfortability on a player-to-player basis.
So that means that we would still have Labman, Jace, and Consultation combos above Witherbloom Apprentice then.
Labman and Jace consultation combos, I don't know, dude. The Lab Jace is throwing me off for some reason because I don't think they see a ton of play.
They don't see a ton of play right now.
Yeah, but yeah, so which is what we're evaluating them on. So yeah, I would say Jace and Labman is worse than this.
Okay, so is Jace Labman worse than Bomberman?
Yeah, Jace Labman is like worse than all of these, I think.
Okay,
Right?
We're gonna stop
But-
talking about Jace Labman
Yeah,
so much.
because they're bad because Thassa's Oracle exists. There's just like a better version to do
Yeah.
that right now, and sometimes they work as backup for those cards. So it's hard to. I think I was the one who said they should be separate. That was wrong. They're the same. It's just like another version of
just
Thassa's
another
Oracle.
version of it. Yeah, okay. And these are still worse than Dualcaster Mage Twin Flame.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, both Witherbloom Apprentice and
Yeah, Twin Flame
Bomberman.
Dualcaster is 5 mana, but this is 4 mana, but that one you get to keep your hand. Very, very important. This one,
Yes.
discarding your hand for 1 cheaper mana, not worth it in my
Not worth
opinion.
it. All right, here's another really good one. Dockside and a Bounce Enabler or a Flicker Enabler.
Yeah, so
The
this is
Baron Master Wizard,
Emil
the Blessed, Deadeye Navigator. There's another one that
there's
I'm
the
thinking
white
of. Teamer Sabretooth.
Teamer Sabretooth is a good one.
Meticulous Evacuation. I
What's
think is
the
that
white?
card you're
There's a
thinking
white
of.
enchantment that for 3 mana can bounce your own
That's
creature.
the card I just said.
Is that what you said?
Meticulous Evacuation.
That card's
Yeah.
pretty good.
That card's not too bad.
I've been thinking about that card in like ad nauseum decks or something that really
Yeah.
care about that cheap mana cost on the front side. I like that.
Yeah, that would do it right there. Also, Cloudstone Curio is another easy way to go off with this too.
Yeah, I'm surprised it took us this long to talk about Dockside because this is a great way to win the deck.
Well, see, this is why for the people that that wanted to stick around after we said like what the number 1 and number 2 were right
very
away.
bold claims we're making. Thassa's Oracle is good, and also Dockside Extortionist is
So
good.
yeah, I mean Dockside, you're already playing Dockside, so like just slotting another card in that loops with it is like super easy to do. So I think this is a very obvious top 3.
Definitely.
That this would go in. Where do you have this versus Breach, Brain Freeze, and LED?
Equal. Maybe is it better? It depends. Man, this is hard to value. So my gut reaction is it's worse.
I got something. I think it's better.
You think it's better? Okay.
I think it's better. Although here's the thing. You are already playing Dockside in every single red deck, so the cost of adding an enabler to it is very not much.
I will give that to you.
So basically, like, as long as you have something to do with the mana, like especially in your command zone, this is an incredibly easy situation to put together here. Not only that, but this is a 2-card combo outside of a 3-card combo that Breach, Brain Freeze, and LED is. So there is a little bit more setup. This also sometimes requires you to also have some other cards in your graveyard as you're going to set up. You can't just always like Intuition for your Brain Freeze line like on turn 1 and be able to go off turn 2 because of it. Like you need a little bit more fodder for that, whereas you could much more easily set up like a humongous Dockside on turn 1 and theoretically like tutor into your other piece very quickly.
My only counter to that is there are times where your opponents have no artifacts and no enchantments and you cannot win the game. That doesn't happen due to your opponents with the Brain Freeze combo. You cannot have a graveyard, but you can also control your own graveyard. If you can control your whole situation, you can always mill your opponents out.
That is true.
That is my only counter argument, but all of your other points were very good and valid.
So then let's fight on it on this level then. What about stacks pieces? Are there more stacks pieces that hurt Underworld Breach, or are there more stacks pieces that hurt Dockside Extortionist?
Collect your null rod effects. Fucks them both.
Fucks them both.
What about like creature abilities?
Creature abilities fucks
only Dockside.
Only Dockside,
like
yes.
Curse Totem effect.
Unless you're playing Cloudstone Curio, and then it doesn't matter.
Sure, unless you're playing Cloudstone Curio, and then it doesn't matter.
Or Meticulous Evacuation, hilariously enough, because that's an ability on an enchantment.
There you go. What about like Rule of Law effects?
It hurts both.
Hurts both.
Rest in Peace effects and Dothy Voidwalker.
Dothy Void hurts Brain Freeze.
Yeah. Opposition Agent, does that hurt anything?
Brain Freeze is very easy to set up with Demonic Tutor. Like the Underworld Breach line is, you
True.
can set with just Demonic Tutor and cards in your graveyard, you can set up the whole line with just a tutor.
Well, I would argue that if you have Dockside and Demonic Tutor, that's also really easy to set up too.
Also, but if you Demonic Tutor for Breach, you can use the tutor again. You can't Demonic Tutor for Dockside and then use it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So Demonic Tutor's a busted card.
Demonic Tutor probably should also be with Ad Nauseam as a 1-card win con. Because if you have enough cards in your graveyard, you can Demonic Tutor for Underworld Breach, cast the Underworld Breach, cast the Demonic Tutor from your graveyard to find Lion's Eye Diamond, do it again to find Breach. You can set the whole line up with just that.
Okay, so all right, we got to get back on this.
Right.
So
is Dockside plus ways to abuse Dockside or Underworld Breach, Lion's Eye Diamond, Brain Freeze better? Which one's better?
I think the spicy thing to be if we put Dockside at number 2, but I think realistically Underworld Breach and LED Brain Freeze really should just be the number 2 combo.
Yeah, I'm taking a cop-out answer here, but I'm having a hard time picking between them. I think Brain Freeze is better. Yeah, I think Underworld Breach is better. I think it's a little bit easier to set up and control. I think it works better with other better cards in our format. Yeah. Which is hard to. Dockside's so good to argue against Dockside.
Right, Dockside works so well in these, but I guess the other thing is that it's much easier to come back if you get interrupted. Like, so long as you have the Underworld Breach, it does make it so much more helpful. And if people try to interact with you after Underworld Breach is in play, you can also have the cards like Pact of Negation in your graveyard that can also say it doesn't matter anymore because I'm just going to be able to do this over and over. So
yeah, I think Breach is a more busted card than we're basically arguing what's more busted, Underworld Breach or Dockside Extortionist, which is kind of funny. 5 years ago, I would have never thought that we were having a conversation about two of the most busted red cards in cEDH.
Right? Yeah.
Nonetheless, I think Underworld Breach is a more busted card, only because you control its bustedness, whereas Dockside, you rely on others.
All right, so that means that we have to talk about Dockside versus Hulk now. So
right,
it's
better than Hulk.
I have it so much better than Hulk. Yeah, I would say. Okay,
Hulk is a tier 2 strategy. It's a great tier 2 strategy, but I look at it's a tier 2 strategy.
100%. Which means, all right, so we're gonna switch over now to Kiki Jiki and a ham sandwich.
This is one of my favorite combos in all of cEDH. Kiki Jiki with Felidar Guardian,
Village Bell Ringer,
Zealous Conscripts,
Combat Celebrant.
Shit.
Pestermite, Deceiver Exarch.
Thank you. Yeah, you got the
Teller
list.
Scout. Yeah. There's so many cards that Kiki-Jiki works with, and we didn't even name all of them.
It's set up really easy with Birthing Pod. That's a setup card for these lines that you can, with just the one, you can set up the whole line, which is one of the main reasons.
Survival of the Fittest and Vivian on the Hunt to do the same thing, basically, where you can set it up with the same Karmic Guide strategies.
Yes, yeah, you can put Kiki-Jiki into your graveyard, bring it back with Karmic Guide, put a Feldar into your graveyard, flicker it with yada yada. We're not going to go into that whole line, but the end state is one of these bottoms and a Kiki-Jiki. Tap the Kiki-Jiki to make a copy of one of these creatures, to either untap the Kiki or flicker it or do something so that you can do it again, make infinite attackers and attack everyone.
Where do we have this in the whole scope of things? Is it better than Bomberman? I think it's better than Bomberman.
I think it's better than Bomberman. I think it's comparable to Dualcaster Mage. I think that it folds to the same weaknesses, being creature removal. But it has the strength of being able to be easily set up by one card in the 3 cards we've just mentioned: Birthing Pod, Survival of the Fittest, and Vivian on the Hunt.
I think one of the big upsides for Kiki-Jiki is that it allows you to cast a lot of your creatures that combo with it at instant speed, so that you can set it up to do end step into your turn for Kiki-Jiki.
Pestermites and whatnot.
Exactly, but that does mean that this is also much more expensive of a combo.
Right. That is true, which is why the setups of these combos normally is only around 6 mana, which is much easier. But I agree with you that just hard casting these 2 cards is damn near impossible. That's too much mana. A lot of times that's 3, 4. That's 3 plus the 5 of Kiki-Jiki. So that's like 8, 9, 10 mana. You're not going to be doing that a ton. So if you're just doing off that rate, it's pretty bad. But if you include the setup cards, I think it makes this combo much better.
So is it better or worse than Dualcaster Twin Flame?
I think Kiki-Jiki is better than Dualcaster Twin Flame.
So where do you have that against Iso Rev or Protean Hulk?
Better than. I think it's better than both Isochron and Protean Hulk.
Where do you have it against Dockside and Enabler?
Worse.
Yes, okay.
But just barely. I think it's truly just under Dockside and Enabler.
I think that in general, I mean, Hulk and Kiki-Jiki do win under
Rule of Law. They're
Rule
both
of Law
good. Yeah, they're both
very
good for that.
easily.
Just Hulk is just missing its setup card. It doesn't have flash anymore. You know what I mean? It doesn't have an easy setup. There are commanders that work well with it, but a lot of times you still have to like get the Hulk into play. Like you have to cast a 7-mana creature, or you can reanimate it. You know what I mean? Of course, you can do that, but then you got to entomb it first, or you know what I mean? You got to get it into the graveyard.
Yeah, that's true.
It just requires a little bit more of a setup, whereas the Kiki-Jiki line is set up with one of those cards that we mentioned, Survival of the Fittest, Birthing Pod, Vivian, and a 3-mana creature. Set those 2 up, and you can go right to this Kiki line and win very easily.
Yeah, I think it is a lot easier to set those up than the Hulks. So I do agree with you there. You've got me. All right, the next one then is going to be Hullbreaker Horror or Tidespout Tyrant with 2 mana positive mana rocks.
Right. Yes. So with this combo, you get one of your Krakens in play. Then you have a rock in play, like a Soul Ring, a Mana Crypt, something like that. You cast your second one with the ability, the trigger that you get from the Tidespout Tyrant or the Kraken. You bounce the rock that's already there, and you tap the rock that you just played for mana, cast the one that you just bounced, bounce the other one, tap it for mana, back and forth until you can make infinite mana. Normally you can win with, either, making a ton of mana and winning in some way like that with Thassa's Oracle. Wow, what happened? I just became an idiot. After you make that infinite mana, win with Thrasios or something like that, the combo is great. I think it works well in a lot of decks, but it has to be a very particular type of deck.
Yeah, and it's usually set up either with something like a Polymorph or a Neoform, something that's able to sneak it into play very quickly.
Right.
Or
in a Kinnan deck where you can cheat it into play, and you can just assume that you'll be able to have enough mana to cast it easily on turn 2.
Yeah, it is very difficult to interact with, especially with Hullbreaker Horror, because they can just cast more instants and return your interaction to your hand. And once you run out of mana, you're not going to be able to keep threatening to destroy it. So
exactly. The issue with this is you have to, one of the issues that we didn't mention with Protean Hulk is you have to play a 7 CMC creature, which is difficult in a ad nauseum world, right? I think that kind of sucks when you have this in your deck that you can hit off of an ad nauseum or something. That's something that a lot of decks have to think about. But I feel like less so with these Tidespout Tyrant decks, right? I feel like they're less played with black cards.
Yeah, this is more of a thing that you would do if you need an infinite mana outlet. Well, hold up. I want to backtrack.
Yep.
Tassiger would be the only black deck that I would say this combo
That's
would
true.
be played
That
in.
is
But
very true.
otherwise, I've mostly seen this in like mono blue or in actually Shorikai as well too. Not only that, but I've also seen this in.
It goes in Rograk, like Teamer decks, Rograk Thrasios.
Oh, Rograk Thrasios. Yeah, if you're trying to like Luca, like basically any of the polymorphs, right? And if you have an enabler in your command zone, I think that's really where it shines.
Some pros, it has a lot of setup cards, a lot of cards that can easily set it up, a lot of polymorph things that you can get into play pretty quickly for cheap. And it also is a little bit tricky to interact with, like you said. The cons are a lot of the times with those polymorph effects, I feel like you have to fuck up your whole deck.
And then you lose out on so many good cards, which is really tough.
You have to play no creatures in your deck, and you can't make that work.
Yeah.
Or you have to play something like a Tasigur in your command zone. You have to make some other sacrifice somewhere else in order to get it.
So I have this under ISO Rev, which would mean that
I think it's above ISO Rev.
You think it's above ISO Rev?
Just above, because I think ISO Rev is like in tier 3 almost right now.
Well, because the other thing is that you have to have a card in your hand. Like ISO Rev, you can just like cast and go off of what's in play,
right?
And that can just win you the game immediately. Whereas like you not only do you have to have like your combo pieces, but you also have to make sure that there's one in your hand or you have another spell to cast to go off. So it is a little bit harder to push in. Plus, with the way that ISO Rev makes you want to build your deck is in a much easier way to go than these polymorph decks.
That's true.
And I think that you're actually gaining a lot from the way that ISO Rev wants you to build versus the way that polymorph wants you to build. So
you might be right about that.
So I would put this above Dualcaster Mage, but underneath ISO Rev.
Interesting. The only thing is that this has one card setups, which I think make it very good. That is my main and only argument why it could be better than both of those things, is because this has an easy one card setup. I shouldn't say easy, but it has one card setup.
Well, then, for the sake of argument, Transmute Artifact is a one card setup, because if you need a specific card in your hand, like a Mana Rock, who's to say that one specific card couldn't be Dramatic Reversal, so that when it comes into play, you can just sneak that in and be able to go off right away then too.
Yeah, there are more Mana Rocks than Dramatic Reversals in your deck. Like, there are more things that the Kraken could have besides just specifically the one card.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think I'm willing to concede that this combo is still worse than Isochron Scepter. So I'll just give it to you that I think this combo is a wee overhyped. And I think it is a little bit just... It's as interactable as the Isochron Scepter.
I think in non-black decks, if you need an infinite mana generator for your commander, I think this is a great way to go.
Yeah.
But you also need to be able to get it out, and I think that hurts it quite a bit. All right, so the next one is not in the top 10. This is Snoop Piles.
Sure.
With Goblin Recruiter, Torch Courier, Kiki Jiki, and Mog Fanatic. This is not... How much are we going to talk about this? This is not in the top 10.
Not a ton, yeah. This is a branch off of Kiki combos. It can be powerful, but... Yeah, I don't think it's better than a lot of the stuff we've talked about.
Again, it's easy. It's easy to interact with, and then you have to, if it is interacted with, then you have to draw a bunch of dead cards for a bunch of turns, and then it makes it much more difficult to actually do anything.
What's the bottom of our list right now?
Right now, the bottom of the list is Bomberman.
This is worse than Bomberman.
This is worse than Bomberman, yeah. I'm not even putting this on the list. Not even worth the time.
Okay.
All right, the next one is one that we've commented on the show already. This is World Gorger Dragon or Abdel Adrian, and Animate Dead, Necromancy, or Dance of the Dead.
This is the true bottom of the list.
This is the true bottom of the list.
This is number 10.
Although now that we talked about Snoop, I don't know. So I feel like I would still rather do this, though, than play Snoop.
Yeah, this has a lot of layover. Why do I keep saying that? This is a lot of crossover with other good cards. You know, Animate Dead can be a powerful effect if you're bringing something back. You can play it with Razaketh, which can help easily set these things up. I like the strategy of Reanimator much more in 1v1 formats than I do in cEDH, because a lot of the times in 1v1, you can reanimate a Gristlebrand and draw a bunch of cards, and even if you don't get there, you have a 7/7 lifelinker, and that's pretty good. That doesn't exist in cEDH. If you have an 8/8 trampling Razaketh trying to set up your World Gorger Dragon, that doesn't work. World Gorger Dragon only wins you the game. It doesn't just chill if there's something that stops you. If someone stops you, you got no more permanence in play.
Which is like the worst downside that you could have.
Exactly.
Ever. I guess that's true. I did talk about that Snoop downside, and the World Gorger Dragon downside is much worse, which Abdel Adrian fixes by at least letting you choose what you're exiling instead of having it be everything, and you can't pick your lands.
Yes, but the Abdel, you need the Mana Rocks also. World Gorger does it with just lands.
Exactly. So it does make it again harder to set up. So where do you have this versus Snoop?
It's better than Snoop.
You think it's better than Snoop?
But
Yeah.
is it? You know what? It's worse than Bomberman.
It's worse than Bomberman too.
But close. It's close.
It's close, yeah. But like, I'd rather have no cards in hand and like still be able to draw live, than have no lands in play, and it doesn't matter what I draw. I'm not gonna be able to do anything.
Yeah, the downside is worse, and for that reason, I think having no permanents in play is worse than no cards in play.
So I think that will actually kick it off of the top 10 for that reason.
All right. Well, it's number 11.
Well, for now. The next one is actually very similar to it. It's actually Leonin Relic, Warder, Animate Dead, and a Blood Artist effect.
To be honest, I feel like this is just, it's part of that combo. It's worse in the way that you need 3 cards because you need the Blood Artist effect also to benefit from the Leonin Relic Warder flickering in and out, but there's no downside of getting rid of all your permanents and cards. I think it's about equal to World Gorger Dragon, especially because Razaketh can set this line up pretty easily.
Yeah, I have this above World Gorger Dragon only because it just wins the game on its own and doesn't completely blow you out if it's interacted with.
World Gorger, you still need to do something with all them. It only makes an infinite mana. You know what I mean? You still have to cast the commander, or you still have to, do something else.
But Bomberman being much easier to set up, I would still put above this.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So then the next one wins games. This is Food Chain and Squee.
Hell yeah.
Or Mist Hologriffin and Eternal Scourge, right? It's those.
I love Food Chain forever. That'll never stop. Unfortunately, if I have to admit a sad truth, Food Chain ain't great.
Food Chain is not great. So the way that Food Chain works is that with Food Chain, you can exile a creature like Squee that is able to be cast from exile for more mana than you cast it for. So you can essentially make infinite mana for only creatures by just casting Squee over and over and over again and generating more and more mana each time that you do so.
Food Sliver can help you cascade through your entire... Dude, I swear this ain't a bit. I'm not doing the same joke over again. My brain is just literally broken about this.
Yeah.
I've said this before. We've done this already. Oh my god,
yeah. First Sliver.
And First Sliver can win the game. That's it. Move on.
Yeah.
And then also Ukama, Kazur and Ukama.
Rocco can also do this.
But
but that just ends up going to find you like Kiki Jiki, which is like, okay, well now the Kiki Jiki line is just better because
it's just a setup card.
That's what I needed anyway, right?
Realistically, I like Food Chain in decks that play black cards because Demonic Consultation and Tainted Pact work really well. If you can use either of those cards to find the Food Chain, hopefully you can exile the Squee or the Mist Hallowed Griffin or the
Eternal Scourge
in your library as you're going, so it can really help set up the combo in a great way. I love it more in those decks. If you're not playing black cards, the combo just gets way too worse. Whereas if you're playing black cards, I think it's at least playable.
So this is worse than Hulk.
Yes.
Is it worse than ISO Rev?
I say same. My brain says same right away. I would say it is better than ISO Rev, maybe.
You would say
I don't think ISO Rev truly sees much real play.
I don't think it really sees a lot of play.
Food Chain still does.
I have Food Chain above it because, again, in the decks that it works in, it works better in.
I think that might be wrong, though. That might be... Isochron, I feel like...
They both fall to the same things. Well, no, I'm sorry. That's not true.
One folds to artifact removal, one folds to enchantment removal. Enchantment removal is rarer.
A lot of times they occur at the exact same rate in decks, though.
Yeah, but no one's playing something that destroys just an enchantment. I guess no one's playing something that destroys just an artifact either.
A braid is like the only reason why that might
Food Chain's better because of a braid.
Food Chain is better because of a braid.
There we go.
All right, so that makes Food Chain actually number 6 right now.
Great.
All right, so our next one then is Devoted Druid and Swift Reconfiguration.
This is a specific one. Works really only with Thrasios, or I guess anything that can win with infinite colorless mana, but it's just like in Thrasios colors.
It's very specific to like that.
It's in green-white. It's not even in Thrasios colors. But what other commander are you going to play with, right? I don't know. Anyway, it's a green creature. I don't even know what Devoted Druid really does.
Devoted Druid is an 0/2, and it can tap for a green mana, but you can also... put a -1/-1 counter on it to untap Devoted Druid. So normally this can make you 2 mana once. With Swift Reconfiguration, you can turn Devoted Druid into not a creature, into a vehicle, where it doesn't matter how many -1/-1 counters on it. Until you turn it back into a creature, it's not going to die. So you can make infinite green mana this way just by continuously untapping it with an infinite number of -1/-1 counters.
Right, yeah. So this is kind of the same as Isochron Scepter. Dramatic Reversal makes infinite mana. mana. It only makes infinite green mana. But nonetheless, it is cheaper than IsoRev. That combo is 4. This is the first one on our list that really is 3 mana. I mean, technically,
Thoracle is
3 mana. That's the top, right? That's the very top. The Dockside combos can technically be 2 mana if you cast Dockside first, and they have a whole bunch of treasures and stuff. But 3 mana is a rate that is very good, right? Like this,
very good, and instant speed too. So if you have a way to win at instant speed after this,
right,
you can totally do so. And a lot of times in these Thrasios decks, you can draw most of your deck to find enough interaction to be able to deal with them on their turn if you're trying to win. If like you can only win with Finale of Devastation.
Yeah, it's better than Ice-Ground Rev in that way, because Ice-Ground Scepter and Dramatic Reversal, you have to put the Dramatic Reversal onto it right away, right? This, you can just play the Devoted Druid, and then later on you can play the Swift Reconfiguration, which is great. The only big con difference is that this is a creature. And this is also there's an enchantment involved as well. So if they have enchantment removal or creature removal, that can stop this.
It can, yeah, and it does make it tougher. But if I have a rules question.
Yep.
So if you turn it in, so if they hit it with removal and then you go to cast Swift Reconfiguration on it and turn it into a vehicle, does the removal spell fizzle or does it still kill the thing?
You can, after the Swift Reconfiguration will resolve, and then the removal spell is still on the stack, and then you can still, in response to the removal spell, tap it for mana, and then remove a counter to untap and tap it for mana. Yeah, and
so
go forever.
But you can still do that. But like, will the removal spell still kill the Devoted Druid if the stack resolves?
If it's like a Dismember, no. Wait.
But if it's like a Doom Blade,
well, no, it would have to still be a legal target
because it's not a creature, right?
Right. If it's not, if it's destroy a creature and it's not a creature, it's a legal target. Yeah, it would fizzle.
Take a break and look in the comments to see if anyone's corrected us on that. But I'm pretty sure.
No, I am pretty sure
this
that's
is
right.
me flashing a warning or like an asterisk. I don't know, but
yeah.
Okay, so where do we put this then? Is it better than Hullbreaker Horror?
Yes, I think so.
It's significantly more efficient.
Yeah, cheaper.
It's harder to play, but
yeah, Hullbreaker Horror has the 1-card setups. That's the big argument I have that pushes it and makes it good. But yeah, I would say that this is better if you don't have those setups.
Is it better? It's better than IsoRev. We just talked about it. Why it's better than IsoRev, right? And just to make sure that we're still right about things, it's better than Dualcaster Mage Twin Flame, right? Because we have both of those we have that underneath Hullbreaker Horror and IsoRev.
Yeah.
So naturally, this means that this would be better than.
Yeah, it is.
Than that, right? And then what about Food Chain? Is it better than Food Chain? Swift Reconfiguration Devoted Druid. Is that better than Food Chain?
These are hard questions.
These are very hard questions.
Food Chain's got more setup for it. Food Chain's got more stuff that works with it. So I think maybe this is. But this is so much cheaper. But Food Chain can be cheap too. I think this is better than Food Chain, actually. So maybe not. No, I don't know. No, Food Chain's better. Food Chain's better. Food Chain's got too many setup cards that go with it.
Yeah, I that's kind of where I'm going with this too. And the other thing is that there aren't many decks that are actually able to capitalize off of this. Whereas Food Chain also has like Kazur and Ukama and Rocco, and like there's a ton of commanders that can actually the new Atraxa, right? So there's a lot of directions you can go with that. Whereas
really, just Thrasios can use infinite green mana, right?
Yeah, for the most.
Kenrith can't use infinite green mana. You need the other colors to do stuff.
And the other decks that would be able to would be like mono green decks. But
they're not outlets normally. They're normally
Yeah.
mana generators. You know what I mean? They're not. They can't use the mana.
All right, so we are going to put that there. So that's actually our number 7 right now, which means that our number 8 is IsoRev, our number 9 is Hullbreaker Horror, and our number 10 is Dualcaster Mage Twin Flame. Because above all of that, our number 6 is Food Chain, number 5 is Hulk, number 4 is Kiki Jiki and an enabler, number 3 is Dockside and an enabler, number 2 is Brain Freeze and Breach and LED, and then number 1 is Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation.
The top end of this list, I definitely agree with. The bottom end, I don't know. I feel like Hullbreaker Horror might be a little bit better. Dualcaster Mage might be a little bit better. Food Chain, Isochron Rev might be a little bit worse than we put. I don't know if Food Chain's the 6th best combo in CEDH.
You don't know if Food Chain is the 6th best combo in CEDH?
I don't know about it.
So you still think it's better than Devoted Druid and Swift Reconfiguration?
Yes.
So then where do we have IsoRev and Devoted Druid Swift Reconfiguration?
IsoRev's worse.
IsoRev is worse. Okay. So Food Chain would be number 7. Devoted Druid would be...
And then where's Dualcaster Mage and...
Dualcaster Mage is still number 10 and Hullbreaker Horror is number 9.
I think those should hop up.
Okay, so Food Chain is number 7.
I think that it should be... I think Food Chain should go down 2 and Dualcaster Mage should go up 2.
Okay, so Dualcaster Mage is better than Hullbreaker Horror.
No, Hullbreaker Horror also should go up too.
Oh, okay. So those
Hullbreaker
two.
Horror, then Dualcaster, then Food Chain, then Swift reconfiguration, then Isochron Rev. Right? I don't know, man. This is hard. What do you think?
This is hard, right? Okay, so I think that I don't know. I think Food Chain is better than people think that it is. I think that the reason why Food Chain decks are tougher to win with now is because they can't grind as much because it's harder when you don't have card advantage in the command zone like a lot of these decks don't.
That's true.
That doesn't affect Food Chain and how easy it is to win the game after you Food Chain, or how fast you can get the Food Chain going too, because that's another thing we didn't talk about. Speed. Like, Food Chain can also be really
very
quick.
fast.
So like I guess you don't have card advantage in the command zone, but it does not affect Food Chain as a combo.
Here's a thought. Sorry, go. You look like you're going to say a little something.
No, I wasn't. I want to hear your thought.
Korvold started playing Food Chain. Most of the lists are not playing Food Chain.
Because Dockside is still better, and Dockside is at number 3 on the list anyway, so I think that also wouldn't affect.
My thing is that Food Chain could have card advantage. You could play Korvold Food Chain.
I see.
But you don't.
Bingo.
So you don't play. You could play Food Chain with the card advantage, and it's still, there are better things to be doing. But only because Dockside is so much better. Maybe if Dockside wasn't so much better, Food Chain would see play, which would make it better than those other things.
Exactly. So it's kind of like the Labman Thoracle situation.
It's like competing with something too good.
Except the gap between these is much closer than Labman and Thoracle.
Yes, that's true. So it's competing with something that is too good, but that makes it hard to evaluate against the other things.
Well, the other thing too is that like Labman and Jace don't see play because of how good Thassa's Oracle is.
Right.
That is not the case with
Food Chain still sees play.
With Food Chain, right? Food Chain and Dockside still see play in the same decks all of the time.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm fine with keeping Food Chain up so high.
Okay. All right. I will. That's all right. Food Chain stays high.
I think Food Chain should stay high. I think Food Chain is better than Swift Reconfiguration. I think Food Chain is better than ISO Rev. This is what I'm thinking now. I'm thinking that ISO Rev should be under Twin Flame and Hullbreaker Horror.
I think that is true.
So really what we should have right now is Thassa's Oracle, Demonic Consultation, Breach, Brain Freeze LED, Docksided and an Enabler, Kiki Jiki and an Enabler, Hulk, Food Chain, Devoted Druid, Swift Reconfiguration, Hullbreaker Horror, combos, Devoted Druid. Nope. Dualcaster Mage.
Yes.
And then ISO Rev is what we're looking at.
Yes. I think that's right.
So that's kicked out like Bomberman and Witherbloom Apprentice. Then.
Oh, that feels strange because I still play those cards sometimes.
Just because you play them doesn't mean that they're in the top 10, right?
Doesn't mean
they're still really
and
good.
They're still good.
They're still good,
cEDH
right?
good.
I never said that every combo that we're talking about today is a cEDH combo. Right. We are not talking about weird, bizarre, like 8-card combos.
These are all
we're
playable.
talking about all cEDH combos. These are playable. This is just what the ranking is. Oh shit, no, we missed one. 2 mana producing creature and freed from the real. It's not in the top 10. It's not in the top 10. That's just out there.
That's worse than all the things we talked about.
Exactly. Honestly, same goes for Umbral Mantle and Solvala and Marwyn. This is just another way to make infinite mana, but your outlet isn't in the command zone. It is your commander. Otherwise, you're playing things like Karametra's Acolyte, but again, you're in the mono green color. So again, I don't think this is better than anything that we have in the top 10.
Yeah, they're specifically good in mono green decks only. And there are a lot of combos that are only good with the specific commanders. We're about to talk about those right now. It makes them kind of worse overall, but their individual strength is still can be powerful.
Exactly. So the first one we're going to talk about here then for the commander combos is Najeela and Derevi. This one is a way you can get infinite attackers and infinite combats by untapping all of your lands that you use to activate Najeela with Derevi's ability.
Not only lands, permanents, mana dorks, mana rocks, all of them.
Whatever you need to activate that ability.
Right. There's a couple of other cards that combo like this with Najeela. It's one of the main reasons why Najeela is so powerful. This combo is really good. You can win like in a lot of different situations from basically next to nothing.
Yeah. So is it a more powerful than ISO Rev?
Yes.
Okay. What about Dualcaster Twin Flame?
See, all right, this is tricky. This is
why I thought that maybe we don't want to include them.
Yeah, but we have to talk about them, right? Or no? It's hard to compare these one-card commander combos with other commander agnostic combos because it's apples and oranges.
We actually have 10 like other combos here. not even including Sovala and Marwyn, where this could be a whole other top 10 list that we
The
could
commander
do.
ones?
Yeah.
Fuck it. It's another podcast.
We've already been talking for an hour.
Yeah, this podcast is over now.
Boom, this is another podcast.
Please include this.
Oh, yeah, that's how it ends. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us directly, you can do so at Patreon, like our $100 patrons.
Baby Jeebus and Demon of Razgrees.
Make sure you check out PlayToWinMTG.com for all of the Play to Win merch.
Another huge shout out to our sponsor, Dragon Shield. They make great sleeves. If you want to support us or them, you can do that at our affiliate link down below.
You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter for more content.
Thanks for watching.
See you next week. Would you like to talk about some $50 patrons?
I would love to.
Stashes.
Michelle Shepard.
Justin.
Eli Ritchie.
Man Solo.
I'm just going to say all of them wrong now, I think. Nikola Marikovac.
Steven Schleicht.
Beej Pip.
Tat Gringy.
All right, we gotta say something, right? Plantain Jackson.
Isaiah Berlisky.
Michael Lyon.
Pedro.
Metal Plays Games.
Windwave.
C.
Khwaja A. Hamid.
Jacob Depp.
CZ.
Michael Ballou.
Jan Wildfang.
Sleepy Jarvis.
Thomas Bueno.
Swampy McGee.
Lauren Connell.
David Nelson.
Jormag.
James Noon 845. Coming like godly.
I love it. Yeah, I love it.
I tried to make my show look
I'm
better.
like
I ended up making your show look better.
I'm like Sweet D. I need more lights blasted on me. So that I look
As
good.
much light as possible.
As much makeup
Here, I
and
can
lights.
help that. Hold on.
Oh, we can?
Yeah, let's.
Oh, perfect.
How's that?
That's perfect.
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
I can stretch out too.
Unique New York. Unique New York.
Red leather, yellow leather. Red leather, yellow leather.
Getting lunch with these fish bags. What did she say?
Total tuna cans.
Total tuna cans.
Put a bullet in their fucking brains and leave their carcasses out on the side of the road.